Lethal, intelligent, and out to prove a point, Japan's 6th generation FX fighter is all it takes to make Japan a world power again, a fighter with almost no interest in multi-role capabilities. After all, Japan already has $23 billion worth of American multi-role F-35 Lightning tubes. The FX instead born out of the need for an air superiority fighter, so superior in fact that both the U.S. and the UK could be making plans to join the program and form a united 6th generation program. Japan, the U.S. and the UK all began their 6th generation journey separately, the FX for Japan and GAD the U.S. and Tempest for the UK. The push for a united 6th generation program reportedly began in 2017 with the UK and Japan, when both countries agreed to exchange information on their respective fighter programs. More recently, a report claimed that the two programs will produce a single fighter design with minor differences built in to satisfy each country's unique requirements. This would supposedly be beneficial for both nations, adding in pooling technologies and funds, as a merger would subsidize the $29 billion required for the Tempest and the $48 billion required for Japan's FX. In fact, in Japan's case, that's equivalent to their entire defense budget for 1 year. The U.S. entered the conversation when the U.S. Air Attaché in London, Colonel Charles Metrolas, a leading U.S. Air Force official, raised the possibility of the U.S. and the UK working together on the same 6th generation fighter program. However, all of these have still only been talks and not two concrete agreements, and so at the moment the three nations still have their respective 6th generation fighter programs progressing independently, as we'll now see, starting with our main focus of the day, the Japanese FX. The need for the FX. Japan's response to increasingly military active neighbors, China and North Korea, came after failed attempts to purchase the F-22 Raptor from the U.S. due to a 25-year-old federal law that prevents the Raptor from being sold or exported. However, these failed attempts could end up a blessing in disguise, as their local 6th generation alternative is everything to write home about thanks to a long line of incredible features. Number 5. Electric actuators. The control, power, and brake systems of the fighter will use electric actuators instead of the more traditional hydraulic systems, which makes sense thanks to an electric wiring connection. Electric actuators are adaptable enough to fit into the intricate fighter interior, giving developers the freedom to design the jet as is most efficient, and as an added bonus, the aircraft is made more mobile. It comes with a lighter airframe. Number 4. Avionics. Persistent fiber optic flyby wire avionics and self-repairing flight systems that detect and automatically compensate for damage to the aircraft's control surfaces are only some of the newest Japanese technologies that the FX would feature. It would also take on integrated sensors such as a highly sensitive infrared camera, an active electronically scanned array, and a radio frequency self-defense sensor, all playing their part in effective detection and alerting the fighter system to threats of opposition aircrafts or missiles in time to be able to respond with appropriate countermeasures. Number 3. Stealth. To be invisible to radars, the FX has to minimize its reflection of radar and radio waves, and then prevent the detection of its own radar emissions. An internal weapons bay and serpentine air ducts coated with carbon-based electromagnetic wave absorbers like engines are help minimize radar reflection to avoid having its own radar emissions detected, particularly when attempting to spot nearby threats. The FX uses passive detection, which prevents the aircraft from releasing radar waves, but allows it to detect them to solve the radio wave reflection situation. The aircraft would employ plasma stealth antenna technology that exploits the characteristics of plasma to change its physical properties through electrical control. The FX would also use meta-materials consisting of various materials, including small pieces of metals and dielectric, applied on the pulse Doppler system as part of a radio wave reflection control technology. Number 2. Engine. In addition to electric actuators and a lightweight airframe, an aircraft's engine, or in this case engines, are the source of athletic level agility and super maneuverability. Recognizing this, Japan is in talks with British manufacturer Rolls-Royce regarding the engines to be fitted on their twin-engine FX fighter. And while that hangs in the balance, the FX is slated to be powered by 2 thrust vectoring XF9 engines, each donating 24,000 lbf of thrust dry and 33,000 lbf with afterburner, with further development on the engines ongoing to get each to produce up to 44,000 lbf of thrust. The XF9 slim size relative to its power also allows for more room to hold internal weapons and preserve stealth without having to trade off any significant thrust or power. And in terms of power, each XF9 outputs a heavy 180 kilowatts, giving the FX a total combined power of 360 kilowatts, more than enough power to feed the fighter's actuators, avionics, other equipment, and maybe even the world number 1 armaments and loyal wingmen. Thanks to a large size and spacious insides, the FX can carry up to 6 different internal weapons which may not sound like much but actually is, and in addition to the long line of kinetic weapons expected of a fighter of this caliber, the FX will be armed with a microwave weapon much like a laser. Directed energy weapon to disrupt incoming missiles. Next is the 6th generation trademark of loyal wingmen. Support the FX will be armed with a team of drones that fly alongside the main fighter to take on side missions, doing everything from being sensor carriers that scout for targets to firing munitions and directing incoming missiles from the main fighter, which you would agree are all major enough missions that calling them side missions might not be doing them justice, and justice is always an important watchword over here at Frontcast at the Justice League, and in the United States, where the 6th generation NGAD is taking shape. The NGAD family of systems, like most 6th generation programs, revolves around a manned fighter that features future technologies and a boatload of capabilities that would make the military reminisce on how far they've come for the NGAD. These capabilities include quite a few. Firstly, air superiority with multi-role functions largely owed to the fighter's high top speed and advanced stealth, which would see it normalize supercruise, ultimately granting the fighter access into anti-access environments and enabling it to deal a great deal of damage without having to slow down to become a target in the sky itself. Is the case with fighters today. This freedom to do whatever in the sky would qualify the fighter as an effective surveillance, reconnaissance and target acquisition aircraft, and an intelligent one too, with detailed situational awareness perceived by highly sensitive and highly network adaptable electronically configured smart skins integrated into the aircraft's fuselage. These smart skins or sensors also come with maximum connectivity, and thus the ability to share data with allies, whether 6th generation or not, meaning that all members of the US fleet are simultaneously kept abreast of the battlefield situation. And as the battlefield continues to become more and more demanding, the NGAD could grow to meet its demands thanks to an open architecture. But that's a feature for the future. As regards current battlefield demands, the NGAD fighter has a large size that would see it, compared to old fighters, carry increased payload that contains a new spectrum of weapons and propulsion. These advanced weapons include everything from newer electronic warfare systems to directed energy weapons, while the new propulsion system would leverage the power and dynamic nature of an adaptive cycle engine that enabled the jet to operate efficiently under subsonic, transonic and supersonic conditions, to make sure that all these capabilities are available in virtually every mission irrespective of risk levels. The manned NGAD fighter could be operated unmanned much like its wingmen, and also be operated from an aircraft carrier, which goes a long way in globally projecting the might of the US military and NATO as a whole. And from one NATO country building a 6th generation fighter to another, we'll now take a look at the UX Tempest. Like the NGAD, the Tempest revolved around a 6th generation fighter like the NGAD. This fighter is optionally manned, capable of conducting surveillance, reconnaissance, electronic warfare, command and control tasks. The fighter has an agile frame like the NGAD, supports loyal wingmen like the NGAD, powered by a thrust vectoring adaptive cycle engine like the NOK. Like the NGAD seems to be coming after every phrase. That's because the 6th generation of fighters is designed to meet the demands of the modern battlefield, and these demands are global, requiring countries to design fighters with similar capabilities. But this is in no way trying to say that Tempest is a twin to the NGAD or even the Japanese FX. They each still have their differences that make them unique enough to have different program names. And so for more details on the Tempest, you can check out this video we've released featuring the Tempest against the FCAT, another European 6th generation program that's a 4th 6th gen program. And with more programs possibly coming, it seems the only way to have the most lethal future fighter is by you subscribing to this channel and giving this video a like. Your military would appreciate it, and so would we. That would be all for now. Thanks for watching.